After Khloe was paralyzed, Noah took care of her meticulously for 2 whole years. Everyone believed that the first thing she would do once she stood up again was to marry him. However, on the night of her successful surgery, when Noah asked her if she was willing to marry him, she hesitated. She remained silent, but the disdain in her eyes was impossible to hide. So he smiled calmly and said, "I understand." That very night, without a second thought, he left her behind, taking only an 8-figure bank card with him. Chapter 1. Do you still want to marry me? Khloe froze slightly when she heard the question, staring at her legs for a long time without speaking. The noise from outside drifted in through the slightly open door. Someone said the doctor said Khloe's surgery was a great success. She should be able to recover fully in less than half a month. I really didn't expect her to recover. 2 years ago, she had almost given up on herself, all thanks to Noah, who never abandoned her. They're definitely going to get married, right? We should start preparing wedding gifts early. Khloe listened to the well-wishing chatter, but still said nothing. The air grew thick with an awkward silence. Finally, Noah stood up just like always and gently massaged the back of her calf. "Does this pressure feel okay?" he asked softly, breaking the silence. Her tense body finally relaxed. Like he had done for the past 2 years, he asked again with concern, "Does it feel uncomfortable?" She shook her head and answered seriously, "No, it feels good." Noah stared at his own hands in a daze. At first, he didn't know how to do massages at all, but she was born into privilege, refusing to let any caregivers touch her. Every time one came, she would lose her temper and drive them away. Yet massages were crucial for her legs, so Noah learned. He spent 3 months studying under a massage therapist. He started by soaking his own hands in medicinal water and practicing on himself before carefully attempting to massage her legs. The first time, he only dared to do it while she was asleep. She was a light sleeper. The moment she caught him, she snapped, "Don't touch me. Get your filthy hands off me. Get out." Noah didn't leave. He simply continued applying pressure on the acupoints he had learned. She couldn't move her legs, so she grabbed a pillow and hurled it at him. When he remained unmoved, she started throwing everything within reach. The last thing she threw was a photo frame, a picture from her college days. In it, she was holding a trophy in one hand, flashing a victory sign with the other, full of youth and radiance. When the warm blood trickled down his forehead, she looked at him and instinctively tried to reach out, but her paralyzed legs rendered her helpless. Finally, she covered her face and broke into sobs. Between choked cries, she whispered, "Just go. Please leave. Don't stay with me. It's useless. I can't feel anything. No matter how much you massage, it won't work." She was drowning in despair back then. But Noah showed up every day, rain or shine, to help with her rehabilitation. Until the day her mother found out she had swallowed sleeping pills and rushed her to the hospital. Mrs. Chun was at a loss. Noah squatted in front of Khloe and said, "Look at me." She obediently looked up. He told her, "Everything will be okay. Trust me." At that moment, he didn't even know where his confidence came from. From that day forward, Noah moved into the Chun household. Khloe's mother cried while thanking him over and over. He could tell she wanted to ask something, so he answered before she could. "As long as Khloe doesn't drive me away, I'll stay by her side." But the truth was, even when she did, he still didn't leave. When yet another massage failed to have any effect, she screamed at him, "Get out. All of you, leave me alone." By then, she was already in a wheelchair. Her entire bedroom was in shambles, destroyed in her fit of rage. The only difference was that this time she avoided throwing things at him. After she had vented all her frustration, he leaned in close to her and repeated, "Khloe, trust me." He said that phrase over and over again for 2 whole years. Little by little, her legs began to regain sensation. She could feel pressure, then she started managing small movements, until yesterday when she finally underwent surgery. Even the doctor was amazed. The operation was a complete success, he said. If nothing went wrong, she would be able to stand again. Chapter 2. Khloe's mother, upon hearing the news, pressed a bank card into Noah's hand. He stared at it in a daze. These past 2 years, he hadn't done any of this for a bank card. Khloe's friends all called him brother-in-law, but only he knew the truth. He had never even confessed his feelings, let alone established any kind of real relationship with her. But once Khloe had told him, "Noah, when my legs recover, I want to marry you immediately." That was after her first treatment, when the doctor had gently expressed his regret. He had pushed her wheelchair home. The moment they entered the house, she broke down completely. The once untouchable elegant goddess had suddenly fallen from her pedestal. Anyone in her position would have struggled to accept such a fate. He held her tightly. She sank her teeth into his shoulder. She bit down too deep, too hard. Even now there was still a faint scar. When she saw the blood, she snapped back to reality and panicked. I'm sorry, she kept repeating. And as he massaged her like he always did, she suddenly said those no. Before that she had asked him, Noah, you have a crush on me? He didn't avoid the question. He looked straight at her and said yes. She stared at him for a long moment before saying she wanted to marry him. But Noah never did all this for some kind of trade. He didn't want her gratitude or obligation. He just wanted her to feel the same way he did. He hoped that one day she would truly love him back. Like always, he stood up and poured the medicinal oil into his palms, rubbing it to warm it up before touching her legs. He knew she was watching him. After a long silence, she spoke softly. Noah, you don't have to do this anymore. His hands froze for a second, but he still finished the massage. He tilted his head up and asked one more time, unwilling to give up. Khloe, do you still want to marry me? She hesitated, parted her lips slightly, but in the end said nothing. He could only laugh at himself for being so foolishly hopeful. But after spending every day by her side for so many years, after secretly loving her for so long, how could he not be foolishly hopeful? He stood up and washed the medicinal oil off his hands. From the doorway her voice came through. Noah, you're like a brother to me. A sharp, throbbing pain pulsed through his head. He rubbed his temples hard. Don't say things like that. Words like that were too cruel to him. When he stepped out of the bathroom, the living room was still filled with laughter and chatter. He glanced at Khloe, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box with some difficulty. Without hesitation, he tossed it lightly into the trash bin beside him. He knew the ring inside wasn't worth much. It didn't match her status. But he had still held on to it naively, looking forward to the day he could propose to her. Even though it hurt, he had managed to convince himself that the timing just wasn't right yet. Now, throwing it away, he felt an unexpected sense of relief, and strangely, he regretted not getting rid of it sooner. Khloe looked over for a fleeting moment. Something flickered in her gaze. She wanted to say something, but he waved it off. Then he pushed her wheelchair out the door. Chapter 3. The moment they stepped out, Khloe's friends immediately swarmed around them. One of them teased, "What little secrets are the lovebirds whispering about? Even we aren't allowed to hear." "Don't worry," another chimed in. "We won't tease you today. We'll save that for your wedding. Let's hang out a little longer before we head home." Khloe's friends, like her, were well-mannered and considerate. Knowing she had just undergone surgery, they had all brought only juice and light food. One of them asked her, "Khloe, when you recover, let's go skiing again. How about Titleys this time?" Khloe nodded lightly, but didn't say anything. Her friend then turned to Noah and grinned. "Brother-in-law, you have to come too and take care of Khloe." Khloe looked up at him, throwing the question his way. After being rejected twice in a row, even he had some pride left. "You guys go ahead," he said. But then Khloe suddenly spoke. "He can come too. After all, I see him as my brother." The moment those words fell, the entire room went dead silent. Her friend playfully poked her cheek and laughed. "Khloe, what kind of joke is that?" More people jumped in to smooth things over, laughing. Her legs just recovered, her brain still catching up. "Don't mind her, brother-in-law." The comment was quickly brushed past in all the laughter and chatter, but Khloe said nothing the entire time. Noah thought back to a conversation with an old friend years ago. "Noah, are you sure about this?" he had asked him. "A rich girl like her, she's from a completely different world. If she were healthy, do you think she would ever choose to marry you?" Back then he couldn't bring himself to say the answer out loud, and now he still couldn't until Khloe answered for him. No. The gathering was warm, the atmosphere light. Soft music played in the background as everyone reminisced about old times. Noah lowered his head and looked up. Titleys, a lesser-known but renowned ski resort. And that was when he truly understood what it meant to be from a different world. He stood up. Khloe's gaze immediately landed on him. He walked back into the bedroom and dialed a number. The number of the woman who had once tearfully thanked him 2 years ago. Rubbing his hands together, he asked Mrs. Chun about that bank card. She had been waiting for him to bring it up. Before he could even finish his sentence, she eagerly cut in 7 zeros. "Take it. It's the least I can do to thank you for taking care of Khloe these past 2 years. Noah let out a low hum in response. There wasn't much to pack. He tossed the few pieces of clothing he owned into the trash. Then he took the bank card and walked out the door. As he passed through the living room, a wealthy heir called out to him, "Noah, where are you heading this late at night?" He didn't want Khloe to feel awkward, so he smiled and said, "Nothing much, just hungry, going out for a bowl of noodles." They joked about ordering takeout instead, but he waved it off. "Your takeout orders cost hundreds, not really worth it." Khloe must have realized something. She lifted her eyes, staring at him without blinking. He waved to the people inside. "I'm off." At 1 a.m., he left the place he had stayed in for the past 2 years with nothing but a bank card in his pocket, and honestly, it wasn't a loss. Chapter 4. Noah found himself a place to stay. He no longer had to watch over Khloe every second, no longer had to brace himself for her sudden breakdowns in the middle of the night. His body, finally free from the constant strain, felt strangely light. But he wasn't used to it. He couldn't sleep. Instead, he sat on the balcony with a beer in hand, gazing at the sparse stars in the sky. The world was utterly silent, and for the first time in a long while he could hear his own thoughts. He thought he'd feel sad. He thought he'd be heartbroken. But he wasn't. He just cracked open another beer, absent-mindedly touched the scar on his shoulder, and wondered when it would finally fade. That night, all he really noticed was how cool the wind felt and how bright the stars were. Khloe called in the early hours of the morning. He answered, but she said nothing. So he was the one who spoke first. "What's up?" She hesitated as if testing the waters before finally saying, "Noah, I feel like eating your homemade meat buns for breakfast." After she became paralyzed, she refused to eat no matter which high-end chef cooked for her. She would keep her mouth tightly shut. He never indulged her tantrums. If she didn't want to eat, then she wouldn't eat at all. Instead, he sat right in front of her and devoured Cantonese dim sum with exaggerated relish. On the third day, she finally caved and asked for a bite of shrimp shumai. Later, she stopped liking restaurant food because he had learned to make it himself. But just yesterday, her silence was still fresh in his mind. So he answered calmly, "Khloe, I'm gone." The line went quiet for a long moment. He didn't know what else to say, so he simply hung up. The money in his bank account was staggering. He stared at the number of zeros in disbelief, counted them over and over, yet still couldn't wrap his head around it. Only when he carefully put the card away did he finally understand what his friend had meant when he said, "She's not from our world." He was right. His parents were just ordinary people. When they heard he was taking care of his paralyzed girlfriend, they even came to visit. Back then, Mrs. Chun had treated them with overwhelming warmth, but they were visibly uncomfortable. After they got home, his dad said, "If it's too much, just let it go. We're from different worlds." It wasn't until now, 2 years later, that he finally understood what Mrs. Chun had been doing. She had served an extravagant feast that even Khloe found excessive. For his parents, two simple people from a small town, it had been overwhelming. Mrs. Chin's generosity hadn't just been about gratitude. It had been a message, a reminder loud and clear. We are not the same. With that bank card, he went ahead and bought a new apartment. Not a single zero had been touched. The next few weeks were spent busying himself with renovations and errands, and then half a month later, he ran into Khloe again at a cafe near his new place. Her friends were teasing her. "Khloe, if Noah really leaves, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Another friend chimed in. "He's been doting on you for years. Just go and act a little spoiled, say sorry or something." Someone else added, "I'm still calling him my brother-in-law." Chapter 5. Khloe hadn't been outside for 2 years. Her skin was so pale that under the sunlight her face was almost blindingly white. Hearing her friends' half-joking, half-serious remarks, she gave a half-hearted smile and said dismissively, "If Noah shows up in front of me right now, then we'll see." Unfortunately for her, he was sitting just one table behind them. He heard every word. He shifted slightly to the side, trying to avoid the situation. But the next second his friend Makoto walked into the cafe, calling out to him in his usual cheerful voice, "Noah." He jogged over and grinned. "They have your favorite croissants today." The moment Makoto's voice rang out, Khloe's table fell silent. He could feel their eyes trailing after him, following his movements until they saw him. Makoto placed the food in front of him and frowned at his sudden change in expression. "What's wrong?" Sensing his discomfort, he tensed up instinctively. But then Noah realized there was no need to let Khloe and her friends affect his mood. So he smiled and said, "Nothing, sit down. This isn't the dulce de leche one, is it?" Just like that, the conversation moved on. But they were seated too close. He couldn't avoid overhearing the murmurs from Khloe's table. "Khloe, this is fate. Go talk to him. If you don't clear things up with him, we can't be friends anymore." He recognized every voice. Back when Khloe was bedridden, they had all come to visit her one by one. Among them was a man who had feelings for her. When he came to see her, Khloe had grabbed the flowers he brought and thrown them in his face. He stood there humiliated and frozen. Noah patted his shoulder, picked up the flowers, and placed them back in the vase. Khloe's eyes were cold as she sneered at him. "And you still like me after this?" The man clenched his jaw, his face stiff with embarrassment. Noah quietly closed the door behind him as he left. When he walked out, he let out a dry chuckle and said, "I'm over her. She's not worth it." Then he left, carrying the disheveled bouquet with him. But halfway down the hall, he turned back. He watched Noah silently as he swept the scattered petals off the floor and frowned. "But you're a good guy," he said. "Thanks." Then, after a pause, he added, "Honestly, you should stop liking Khloe too. She doesn't deserve you." After that, Makoto and Noah became friends. They'd go out for drinks and barbecue sometimes. Khloe had always been surrounded by decent people. As he reminisced, Makoto kept chatting beside him. It wasn't until Khloe's voice rang out that he snapped back to reality. "Noah." He instinctively looked up. Her lips were pressed tightly together. She had something to say, but suddenly seemed unable to voice it. From behind her, one of her friends urged, "Khloe, just apologize. If you act a little spoiled, I bet he'll forgive you right away." Khloe's lips tightened even more. But Noah didn't need her apology. Love was supposed to be mutual. Besides, he had already taken the money. There were still so many zeros in his account that he hadn't even counted them all yet. People shouldn't try to have it both ways. Khloe stood there frozen. Noah looked at her conflicted expression and spoke first. "I don't need it. I don't need an apology." She let out a quiet sigh of relief. But just as she turned away, she hesitated and looked back at him. "When are you coming back?" she asked. Maybe he hadn't made himself clear last time. So this time he was. "I'm not going back." Khloe seemed lost in thought. Her eyes lowered, and after a pause she responded with a quiet, "Okay." She returned to her table where her friends were still waiting eagerly. "So, did he forgive you? When's the wedding? When can I get my wedding candy?" Khloe's voice was cold and distant. "There's no wedding." The table fell silent. Then, as if to make her stance even clearer, she raised her voice slightly. She scoffed. "Why would you assume I'd marry him just because I owe him? I have to repay it with my life. I already told you I see him as a brother. For the third time. Some things, if you push too far, lose their meaning." Noah stood up and addressed her friends directly. "You guys misunderstood. I was just paid to take care of Khloe." Khloe lifted her head, staring at him. Her gaze locked onto his. He met her eyes without hesitation. Looking into those furious eyes, he spoke again calmly. "And you don't have to see me as a brother either. A stranger will do." Chapter 6. Khloe was in love, loudly, publicly. She announced it on social media, attending events with her new boyfriend on her arm. It was impossible not to know. Noah ran into them at a gathering with so many mutual friends. No one had expected them to cross paths. When Khloe walked in, her arm hooked around her boyfriend's. A friend of his patted his back, a silent gesture of acknowledgement. After all, they had all seen how he had taken care of her during those 2 years. He gave him a reassuring smile and turned to take a good look at Khloe's boyfriend. Nothing special. 2 eyes, 1 mouth. Khloe saw him too. She casually picked a table in the far corner and sat down. When the waiter arrived, she ordered a fruit platter. As soon as it arrived, she nudged her boyfriend with a small gesture. The man, eager to please, immediately peeled an orange for her. He fed her pieces of fruit, but she didn't even bother lowering her head, her gaze blankly staring ahead as she absent-mindedly chewed the grapes he handed her. Even an outsider could see how detached she was. If this was what she called being in love, it looked pretty dull. Noah wasn't affected, but his friend was fuming with indignation. He clung to him and insisted on introducing him to someone new. He patiently explained that he was drunk as he helped him out the door. Khloe's boyfriend and Noah locked eyes. "I know you," he said. Noah paused with a smirk. He added, "Khloe really owes you a lot for all the care you gave her." Noah nodded and continued supporting his friend, ready to leave. But he stepped in front of him, blocking his way with a self-satisfied grin. He said, "Just don't try to guilt-trip anyone. That was your duty. If Khloe had been my girlfriend back then, I would have done the same thing." He spoke with such grand conviction, so full of self-righteousness. But the sleepless nights, the shattered glass thrown in anger, the endless patience needed to handle her emotions. Those weren't things you could understand just by imagining them. Noah chuckled. Words were cheap. But who knew? Maybe one day if Khloe's legs failed her again, he'd get his chance to prove himself. Khloe's face had already darkened. A friend quickly stepped in to smooth over the tension. Noah played along, cracking a joke. If it ever comes to that, just hire a caregiver instead. But even that made Khloe angry. Bang! A glass slammed hard against the table. He turned to look at her. Pouting, she snapped impatiently. What's the point of bringing up the past? It's boring. But if it was truly in the past, why couldn't it be mentioned? It wasn't about moving on, it was about shame. The next day, when his friend sobered up and heard about the encounter, he cursed, "That bastard. He really rubbed it in your face, huh?" Noah let him rant. Then as he fumed, he calmly counted the zeros in his bank account. Still not mad. It was then he truly realized the power of money. But his friend remained convinced he was just putting on a front. Once again, he tried setting him up. "Khloe's already dating. Want me to find you a girlfriend? With your financial status, it'd be easy." These days, relationships moved fast. Some people barely needed a day before jumping into bed together. But Noah had no interest in using money to attract a woman. That was fine for casual fun. For something real, something that required trust and genuine care, money wasn't the answer. So he politely declined. His friend, of course, took it the wrong way. "See, you're still hung up on her." He ranted about Khloe some more, and Noah simply laughed along, throwing in a few insults for good measure. Life went on. He immersed himself in fishing, friend other fishing enthusiasts, and even bought a yacht. Every day, he spent his time out on the water, completely at peace. Along the way, a few women showed interest in him. But when they realized he wasn't the type to shower them with gifts or take them on extravagant dates, they quickly lost patience. Soon enough, he'd see them in relationships with someone new. His friends started joking that he was like Lucky Chuck, the guy women dated before finding the one. He laughed too. The truth was, he wasn't in a rush. Once he had devoted himself entirely to Khloe. Now he wanted to focus on himself. He wanted to fully let go of the past before opening up to someone new. And when he did, he knew one thing for sure. The person he'd choose would be just like him. Genuine, real. He still believed in meeting sincerity with sincerity. Chapter 7. Khloe broke up a week later. She was in another relationship. Once again, she announced it publicly. By now, even their mutual friends had fully accepted that Khloe and Noah were impossible. He had been away from Sea City for half a year, yet news about Khloe still found its way to him. Then she broke up again. Maybe she had finally figured something out. This time she stopped. Her friends, however, weren't ready to let it go. They joked, hinting that she was single again and urging him to go after her. As the new year approached, he had no choice but to return home. What he didn't expect was that the moment he stepped off the plane, they were all there waiting for him. Khloe's friends surrounded him, grinning. "Noah, what did you go fishing in a coal mine? How'd you get so tan?" Despite everything, they had never distanced themselves from him just because Khloe and he didn't end up together. One of them had even messaged him the day he cut ties with Khloe saying, "Noah, even without Khloe, I still want to be your friend." But what he really didn't expect was that Khloe was there too. She stood at a distance, staring off into space, lost in thought. But eventually she took a step forward and said to him, "Long time no see." Half a year ago, she had barely concealed her resentment toward him, and now she was greeting him like a new friend. He responded politely, "Long time no see." She hesitated before speaking again. "My legs." Before she could finish, his phone rang. He gave her an apologetic smile and answered the call. A bright, cheerful voice came through the line. "Noah, where are you?" Her energy was contagious. He smiled. "I'll send you my location. Don't rush, take your time." When he hung up, his friends had already made plans for dinner. After they finished talking, he asked, "Mind if I bring someone along?" They were instantly, "Who? Who are you bringing?" Just then, a girl in a pink down jacket came running up to him, full of energy. He had told her to slow down, but she still dashed straight to his side. Without hesitation, she grabbed his hand, clinging to him as she said, "I missed you so much." Her movements were too fast. No one had time to react. He tried to take her suitcase from her, but she refused to let go. Smiling, he introduced her. "This is Sophia, my girlfriend. Fate is funny sometimes. Love shows up when you least expect it." Sophia truly loved fishing. What started as a shared hobby turned into a deep, effortless connection. He had prepared himself for the possibility that she might leave after learning about his values, but she didn't. She was lively, independent, and they saw the world the same way. Before he even realized it, she had become a constant presence in his life. His friends exploded in laughter. "Noah, you've been hiding her from us all this time, huh? If you hadn't come back, we'd never have met her." Another one added, "No excuses, you're paying for dinner." It wasn't that he had been hiding her. He just hadn't expected her to come with him. He had missed his original flight due to traffic. When he rescheduled, she had sent him a pouty. "Why aren't you here yet? I hate you." Only then did he realize she had bought the seat next to his. But fate played a trick on them. They missed each other anyway. She had landed earlier and had been waiting for him at the airport. As his friends continued teasing him, he raised his hand and surrendered. All right, dinner's on me." Sophia mimicked his gesture, grinning as she echoed, "Dinner's on me." Her outgoing personality quickly won everyone over. When they arrived at the restaurant, the seats were perfectly arranged, just enough for everyone, not a single chair extra. That's when someone noticed Khloe wasn't there. They called her, and her voice on the other end was unclear. "My legs suddenly started hurting. I went to the hospital." No one could sit still after hearing that. "Are you okay? What did the doctor say?" She replied, "It's nothing. The doctor just told me to rest. You guys eat. Don't wait for me." But given her past condition, no one felt comfortable just staying put. Seeing their hesitation, he gave them an out. "Go check on Khloe. We can have dinner anytime." He turned to Sophia and said, "We're tired anyway. We'll just head home and rest." Sophia, unfazed by the unexpected change of plans, cheerfully waved them off. As they walked back home, she pointed at every little thing along the way, asking endless questions. She had something to say about flowers, street signs, even the stray dogs on the sidewalk. By the time they reached his place, neither of them expected to see Khloe standing at the door. Sophia's grip on his arm faltered for a moment. Then she stepped forward and spoke first. "Khloe, sister, right?" Her voice was sweet, warm, and respectful. She even called her sister. He instinctively glanced at Sophia. Khloe gave her a small smile, but didn't answer her. Instead, she looked at him. "Noah." Her eyes were on him. "Long time no see," she repeated. Sophia, despite being ignored, remained unbothered. She simply held his hand and stood quietly beside him. Khloe seemed to have more to say, but he took a step forward, cutting her off as he introduced Sophia. "This is my girlfriend, Sophia." Khloe's lips twitched into a smile before she gave a barely audible response. Then she added, "My legs might have a problem." Sophia responded immediately, her voice filled with concern. "If your legs aren't doing well, you should go to the hospital right away. Do you need me to call an ambulance for you?" She even took out her phone, explaining seriously, "After all, my boyfriend isn't a doctor." Khloe ignored her and called his name again. "Noah." Sophia, however, wasn't about to let it slide. She leaned in close, her face right in front of his. "Noah, why isn't she answering me?" How was he supposed to know? But before he could reply, Khloe spoke again. "Noah." Sophia refused to let up. She leaned in again. He could never win against her, so he instinctively reached for his keys and started unlocking the door. Then at the last second, he realized Khloe was still standing there. Sophia, ever straightforward, reminded him, "Noah, you forgot. Khloe is still here." Khloe's expression flickered momentarily, faltering. Seeing his gaze return to her, she finally spoke. "Can we talk?" Sophia shook his hand, looking up at him. "Noah, what do you need to talk to her about?" And in that moment, he suddenly realized she had been acting like a classic pretentious coquette all along. He caught on a beat late, but still played along. "I don't have anything to talk about with her." With that, he closed the door. Inside, Sophia immediately clung to his arm. "I'm jealous," she pouted. He ruffled her hair. "Jealous of what?" She knew everything about his past with Khloe. When they started dating, he had told her everything, left nothing out. What was there to be insecure about? She pursed her lips. "I hate that you're such a blockhead." He didn't know how to respond, but before he could say anything, she brightened up again. Then again, being a blockhead is a good thing, she muttered under her breath. It means you don't even notice when other women are trying to flirt with you. At night, Khloe called him. Noah, she said, did you know your girlfriend had a 4-year-long first love? She really was in the hospital. Her condition was unclear, but all those exes who had once sworn they'd never abandon her, they showed up at the hospital one after another. His friends even started placing bets on how long they'd last. The 2 days. Most didn't even last a few hours. His friends told him she deserved it. They warned him not to soften. Of course he wouldn't. The moment he took the bank card, he had no intention of looking back. Then one night, Mrs. Chen messaged him. Noah, can you meet Khloe alone? Sophia was right beside him when the message came. He refused outright. Sorry, my girlfriend might not be okay with that. She called him, her voice desperate. I'm begging you. I'll give you as much money as you want. Khloe can't just stop eating. Please just let her eat. Why is this happening to Khloe? Her words were incoherent, her voice breaking. Apart from what little he gathered, Khloe's condition wasn't minor. Mrs. Chen sobbed. Why does this have to happen to us? Please, she needs to eat. Sophia, always understanding, squeezed his hand and said softly, it's okay if you see her, don't worry about me. But what was the point? There was no relationship left between them, and if he met her once, they'd just find reasons to make him meet her again and again. He held firm. I'm sorry. I don't owe you anything. I have my own life to live, and so does Khloe. The next day, he heard from a friend. Khloe's legs had worsened. The doctor had said it was a low-probability event, yet somehow it had happened to her. Her muscles had atrophied. The likelihood of her returning to a wheelchair was high. Back then, even when he was by her side, she could barely endure it. Now, after having tasted the freedom of walking again, being told she might be paralyzed once more, he couldn't imagine how she was handling it. He didn't respond to the message. Then Khloe called him directly. He thought she was going to act pitiful, but instead she scoffed. Noah, do you really think you and your little girlfriend will last? He didn't answer. She continued, want to bet? Bet on your girlfriend's loyalty. Loyalty wasn't something you could gamble on, and he knew the moment you start testing trust, it's already broken. He let out a cold laugh. I'm not playing this childish game with you. She didn't care about his rejection. Her final words were, just wait and see. Beautiful women never stay faithful. He brushed it off and moved on. The new year was busy, filled with plans. Sophia wanted to explore the city with him, but he barely had time. At first, she was a little sulky about it. Then she realized he was genuinely busy and started exploring on her own. She made friends effortlessly, so he never worried. Sure enough, in just 2 days, she was heading out full of excitement. Some mornings she left before he even woke up. Sometimes he caught her before she left. Other times he woke up to find only a handwritten note in the living room. The notes piled up, and then slowly he felt it, a creeping unease. What was she doing? Who was she meeting? He remembered how she had once teased him when he was away for a week, constantly asking what he was up to. Now for the first time, he understood how she had felt. He wanted to talk to her about it, but before he could find the time, Khloe messaged him from a new number, a photo. Sophia sitting in a cafe, laughing with another man. For a split second, unease crashed over him. That morning she had told him she was meeting a friend. Khloe sent another message. See? This is your girlfriend. He didn't know what her goal was. She kept sending more photos. Guess what? Think she'll come home tonight. He blocked her. Chapter 9. He sat at home hesitating before finally texting Sophia. What are you up to? Her reply came quickly. Having dinner with friends. He swallowed down his unease and typed. What time will you be home? She responded, around 10. So he waited until 10. Time crawled by. He sat on the couch, restless and anxious, watching the clock tick away. 11 came. Sophia still hadn't come back, not even a single message. Then Khloe called him from another new number. She let out a cold chuckle. So, am I right or am I right? Beautiful women never stay faithful. He frowned. What was she trying to achieve? He sighed. Even if Sophia did betray him, so what? If she cheated, he'd break up with her. Then he'd move on and find someone else. It was that simple. He had never been the type to lose the courage to try again just because he got hurt. Back then when that guy told him Khloe didn't deserve him, he had doubted him. She had seemed kind, smart, someone with countless good qualities. How could she not deserve him? But now, looking back on those 2 years objectively, She had a terrible temper. She had given up on herself. She had access to the best medical care, but refused to put in the effort to recover, and now she wanted to drag him down with her. She really didn't deserve him. He waited until 1 a.m. Sophia still wasn't home. But why was he waiting? Why was he listening to Khloe instead of asking Sophia directly? Why was he letting someone else interfere in his relationship? He grabbed his coat and headed out the door. And just as he stepped downstairs, he ran into Sophia. She was just getting out of a car. In the driver's seat was a man. The same man from the photo. The moment she saw him, she stiffened, looking a little flustered. Noah, she called his name quickly, explaining, I got home a little late. The man in the car noticed him too. He gave him a casual wave. The car started to pull away. Noah stepped forward and knocked on the window. The man hesitated before rolling it down. What's up? He asked. Noah looked at him and asked directly, Are you Sophia's first love? His expression shifted, suddenly uneasy. You're Sophia's boyfriend, right? Don't misunderstand. I was just. He cut him off. Yes or no? Sophia, realizing he was angry, hurried over. Traffic was bad, she said, her voice anxious. That's why I got back late. 10 o'clock, she had said. It was now past 1 a.m. How bad could traffic possibly be? He repeated his question. Yes or no? Yes. The answer was yes. They had been together for so long, and she had never told him about her first love. Some people wouldn't care, but he did. Right then and there, he broke up with her. The man jumped out of the car, rushing after him trying to explain. Women, I swear I wasn't trying to get in between you two. I was just in town for work and Sophia was traveling too. So we just grabbed a meal. We didn't do anything. You can check the security footage if you want. The more he spoke, the more frustrated he became. It wasn't about what they did or didn't do. It was about trust. Sophia cut him off. Stop talking, she said sharply. The man hesitated, then sighed, looking guilty. Sophia turned back to him, quickening her pace to catch up. She followed him all the way home and blocked the door, refusing to let him in. We need to talk, she said. He looked down at her. No, we don't. From the very beginning, he had been clear about what he wanted in a relationship. Mutual honesty, complete transparency. He had told her everything about him. She had hidden him. She had hidden their dinner. He wasn't oblivious. He had simply chosen to act oblivious for her sake. He had chosen to be a man who wasn't interested in casual banter with other women, who didn't entertain meaningless conversations. He had chosen to keep his distance from everyone else. He had chosen to be reserved for her. He had chosen to be hers. And in the end, she had kept secrets from him. He exhaled, his voice calm. It's over. Chapter 10. This relationship had started fast, and it had ended just as quickly. When his friends invited him out and told him to bring Sophia along, he responded openly. We broke up. They sighed in sympathy, then immediately started trying to set him up with someone else. He still refused. He was still waiting for someone sincere, and if she never appeared, he would rather be alone. Mrs. Chun continued calling him, pleading with him to visit Khloe. He still refused. Instead, he sent over all the meal plans, prescriptions, and medical guidance she needed. Then he booked a flight back to his hometown. This time he didn't miss his flight. When he took his seat, he noticed Sophia sitting right beside him. She grinned, her eyes curving into crescents. Noah, this time we didn't miss each other. But she was still too young. She didn't even understand what he was thinking. She only wanted to get back together. She pouted and clung to his arm, her voice soft as she pleaded. I was wrong. Let's get back together. I promise I'll be good. Forgive me, Noah. Can't we just be happy together? She repeated the same words over and over, but none of them touched the real issue. Mrs. Chun had begged him over and over to see Khloe, and he had rejected her outright. So why should he have to meet Sophia's first love? He replied simply, No, we're not getting back together. Let's end it here. When they got off the plane, she stood there looking pitifully at him. But when he turned away to call for a taxi, he glanced back. She was already gone. She had been passionate and sincere, but she was still too playful, too young. That was okay though. At the very least, he had gotten to experience her warmth, and when the time came, he would still take his next relationship seriously.